Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, and we're going to be providing an update to the bull market support band. If you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Now, I do typically prefer to just call it what it is, and when we are below the bull market support band, I do think it makes more sense to think about it as a bear market resistance band. But with that said, there does seem to be a little bit of confusion among the terminology, and some people ask me if it was like a different set of moving averages. We'll just call it the bull market support band, but you need to be aware that you cannot find support on something when you're below it, right? You have to get back above it. So until we get back above it, you might as well think of it as a resistance band. Okay, this is the boss that we'd like to get past. Okay, the 20-week SMA and the 21-week EMA. If we cannot get past those, then there's a good chance there's more downside ahead. If we can get past them, then what happens? We likely go into another phase where we have a spike above it, and then we come back down to see if we can hold it as support. Okay, so just keep in mind that this is the real boss that we're looking at. There's all these these other moving averages that are a bit fluffy, and we look for things that might not necessarily be there. But at the end of the day, in order for the market to really get bullish and for macro sentiment to really flip, I think we need to see Bitcoin above both the 21-week EMA, the 20-week SMA, and to be holding them as support. Okay, so that is what we would like to see. Now, if you would like an update on these values, the 20-week SMA is currently at 51K. The 21-week EMA is currently at 46.8K. We're only $3,000 away from the 21-week EMA. A modest $3,000, if you will. Of course, we are further away from the 20-week SMA. But we wanted to go over again some of the similarities between what we've seen this time and then what we saw back during the summer lull. One of the things I've mentioned on here is, I think a lot of people take exception to calling things a bull market or a bear market. And one of the things we sort of dealt with in the summer was, if the price of an asset is down 50% over 3 months, it's hard for me to look at my portfolio that's down 50% and say, oh yeah, like it's a bull market. But you also have to remember that not all bear markets are the same. Some can be short, some can be long. This is the thing we've been saying for 3 years on this channel. And this was really shown, I think, by back in 2019, probably before a lot of you guys were even in cryptocurrency, when we looked at these brief bull and brief bear phases. Because early 2019, we saw this bullish phase. This is the log of the price over the 20-week SMA. The natural log of the price over the 20-week. And so if the price equals the 20-week, then you get the natural log of 1, which, as you guys know, is 0. Okay, so if it's below 0, we are below the 20-week moving average. If it's above 0, we are above the 20-week moving average. So this huge red area over here, this is a crypto winter. Okay, so this is not, I don't think we are in this right now, but this is a crypto winter where you're basically just below the 20-week moving average for a year or longer. If you actually go look at when this started, there were brief periods where we spent like one close above it, but really we were below this for 59 weeks, over a year. So that is a crypto winter. But you also get phases in the market where you are below it for a few months, right? Not a year, maybe 3 to 6 months. And in fact, the one back in the summer lasted approximately 3 months. And so far, this one has also lasted about 3 months so far. Not quite 3 months. This one, I didn't actually draw it all the way over. But one of the interesting things is that when you think about this, you always have to be flexible to what the price action is telling you. I see so many people, they're just so set in their ways. And this is what led to some people being completely surprised by what happened back in the summer when we bounced back up and we got back above the bull market support band and then held it as support and then put in a new all-time high. The problem, I think, is that when you think about a bear market, everyone always assumes that it has to be a full-on crypto winter. That's not true. We've had phases like in 2019. That was just a brief bear market, as you can see. We had one in mid 2021. and then we are currently in what I would believe to be another one. I do think there's a good chance Bitcoin will in fact get back above its 20-week SMA and 21-week EMA. But again, we still have a lot of work to do. So one of the things I wanted to talk about here is the timeline, the time frame when looking at these things, and trying to have realistic expectations. Look, I'm not here to tell you things have to go parabolic immediately. You know my general thinking. Basically, just assume things won't go parabolic and then be pleasantly surprised when they do. So what we've noticed, if you go look at the Heikin Ashi candles on this downtrend, from when we really started this downtrend, it took approximately 13 weeks to get back above the bull market support band. So about 13 weeks. If we go look at the current downtrend, we are currently in week number 12 from really when this downtrend started. If you look at it in the Heikin Ashi format, which would mean we're coming up on the time frame where we could be getting back above the bull market support band. If you flip this over back to normal candles and we just sort of think about, okay, how long did it take from when we got below the 20-week SMA to get back above it? It took about 13 weeks. Furthermore, when you look at it this time, this was the summer low back over here. When you look at this one, we're currently in our 10th week of being below it. Really, I think it's 11 because this is measuring the distance. So really, we're in our 11th week. But it's been 10 weeks overall since we have been below the bull market support band. And what you can see last time is that it took 13 weeks to get back above it. But I think it's also interesting to point out that during this phase, the 11th week took us to the bull market support band, right? So the 11th week is what took us to the bull market support band. The 12th week, we actually spent it between the 21-week EMA and the 20-week SMA, and it was the 13th week where we, in fact, were above it. Now, I have no idea if it's going to play out the same way, but 13 weeks for Bitcoin would actually put it in late February or early March before it could be potentially breaking above the bull market support band. Again, it can happen at any time, right? It could also get rejected potentially as well. So I would say don't look at this market as something that you can figure out exactly what's going to happen, because the truth is no one really knows. It's so hard to call these things. If you think about like calling bottoms and calling tops, it's exceptionally difficult to do. And I mean, even right now, like, we're all happy that the price of Bitcoin is up about $11,000 from its local bottom at 33K. But it's always hard to know exactly where the bottom will be. And even the people that will claim they called the bottom probably called it 5 times before they actually got it right. So it is really difficult trying to become a hero and calling whatever the bottom or the top's going to be. But what we can do is we can at least look at least longer term trends in the market and try to see, okay, well, what happened last time? Is it realistic to expect something similar this time or not? And there are definitely some similarities between the last two moves. For instance, if we get rid of the bull market support band here really quick, and we actually take back on these Heikin Ashi candles to better identify the downtrend. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this over to the daily time frame, because you can actually get a little bit more resolution. If you measure it from the top and go all the way over, sorry, let me get the bar pattern. So if you measure it from the top and go all the way over to, say, this point, what you get something that looks like this. So what's interesting in this situation is there are definitely a lot of similarities between these two moves. Namely, you see, if I just sort of shift it over so you can actually make this out, right? You see this phase here, these local tops, same thing here, a push higher, same thing over here, push higher, and then a push down from that intermediate top, and then it rolls over and then it bounces, right? So then it rolls over and then it bounces. So you see very similar price action for both of them. When you measure it from the top, they don't really line up that well. But when you measure it from just if you take this first one over here as sort of this local top, and then the second one as the top from where we measure the downtrend, you do get something that might make a little bit more sense in terms of timing when thinking about like the time at which it took us to find a local bottom. So for instance, from the correction date, you can see that this first one was a bit quicker in terms of finding whatever the bottom was going to be, and then it basically just went sideways until it went up. Most recently, though, what we saw was that it actually sort of lagged behind. Ultimately, it sort of found the same level of capitulation on at least on the time frame, about 2.5 months later or something, and then it started this fairly nice rally back up to the upside. So I did want to at least show that. And listen, I know this phase is hard right now, and thinking about whether it's a bull market or a bear market, it is somewhat subjective as to what terminology that you're going to use. My thinking is that when Bitcoin is below its bull market support band, and especially when it's down 50% and when it's taking out market structure that we've seen hold in the past, it took out 40K. Obviously, we're back above it now. But it's hard to look at that and not call it a bear market. But again, I think there's a difference between a bear market and a crypto winter. Okay, so again, not everyone agrees with that statement, but that is something that I would say is worthwhile. Furthermore, you should remember that bear markets actually present opportunities. Bull markets give you this false sense of security that things only ever go up. But bear markets actually give the people that are serious about their investments, they give them the time to get positions in the projects they believe in, and then to just be patient. Because we don't know, we don't really know what's going to happen over the next 6 months. We could get above the bull market support band and trend higher. We could get rejected by it and trend lower. But the point is that you should not fear the downtrends in the market. Okay, we inevitably, for Bitcoin, come out of them if history is any indication, right? We always have tended to come out of them at some point. So regardless of what you call it, when Bitcoin is in a downtrend for an extended period of time, it represents an opportunity. As I've said before, bull markets can make you money, bear markets can make you rich, because it's those people that stick around when the market is bearish have the most to gain when the market is bullish. Okay, I mean, you can't just have a phase of up only for forever without having consequential pullbacks in the market. So let's hope that Bitcoin can make a rally to the 21-week EMA. I mean, if you want my honest opinion, which a lot of times, or at least my candid opinion, which a lot of times honestly can be wrong. So again, it's hard to predict these short-term moves. I am leaning towards Bitcoin getting up to the 21-week EMA. I don't know how quickly it's going to happen. I mean, we could go back to 40K first. I don't know. It's hard to say, but it seems reasonable to think that we should be able to get up here. And then that's where the real battle begins, okay? There's all these sort of soft resistance levels, like at 39, the 40K area, the 44K area, which we already broke out above earlier today. We went up to 45.5K. You can see it right here. There's all these sort of soft areas, but really the key area to watch is the bull market support band or bear market resistance band, if you're okay with that terminology. But the reason why we use the terminology is, again, because we don't want to be deterministic about anything, okay? While I think there's a good chance Bitcoin's going to break above this thing within the next, say, 1 to 4 months. Typically, I say 3 to 6 months from when we break below it. So while I think there's a good chance Bitcoin will break above it within the next 1 to 4 months, that's also a very deterministic way of thinking. And if you are very deterministic, then it can hurt you. Okay, so you need to take a step back and realize that, hey, no one really knows what's going to happen in the short term. Let's try to come up with a solution to navigate all sorts of possibilities. So we'll see if we can break above. We broke above it last time, back in August of 2021. What I also thought was interesting actually was where we broke above it last time in August of 2021 is actually where we are right now. Okay, that's actually where we are right now. But the 20-week is actually a lot higher because of that price action over there. So you can see we broke above it at around 44K. And then here we are in February of 2022, and we are right at $44,000. So it is certainly possible that in the short term, 44K could provide some resistance, but I mean, we already did break above it to the tune of $1,500 as well, which is also actually happens to correspond to the wick that we saw during that week. Okay, so if you look at this week where we broke up into the 21-week EMA, we went up to the 20-week estimate, we had a wick above it. that's basically where we are right now. So the current price at 43.8 is actually right at that level that we broke above, and then the wick takes us up to that. So it's actually a fairly similar, looks like fairly similar price action there in terms of actual prices and where they are. So we should get a crack at the 21-week EMA at some point in the next couple of months. I would assume we should get a crack at. I'm hoping sooner rather than later. But the real test, I think, is just what happens when we get to it. Okay, can we actually break above it, or do we get rejected? And if we do get rejected, then then we have to be on the lookout for, are we going to put in a higher low and go back and retest it, or do we have to go put in a lower low and then come back up and retest it? Regardless, we should be getting some tests of it here over the next couple of months. So if you guys like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. We also do have the premium list at intothecryptoverse.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Bye.